The 1970s had its giants, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones. But beneath them thrived incredible bands that deserved more recognition. These artists packed just as much talent and creativity into their music, but somehow got lost in the shuffle. If you grew up then, you remember discovering something special on the radio. Those album covers and sounds that made you stop and listen. Today, we're revisiting 15 underrated rock bands only 70s kids remember. Number 15. Badfinger. Out of Swansea, Wales came a band that should have conquered the world. Badfinger had everything going for them. They were the first band signed to the Beatles' Apple Records in 1968, initially performing as the Ivies. When they changed their name to Badfinger in 1969, the moniker came from an early working title for the Beatles' song With a Little Help from My Friends, which had been called Badfinger Boogie. Their breakthrough arrived in 1970 with Come and Get It, written and produced by Paul McCartney himself. The song rocketed into the top 10 on both sides of the Atlantic. That same year, No Matter What proved they could write hits without Beatle assistance, climbing to number 8 in the US. In 1971, George Harrison produced Day After Day, which featured his distinctive slide guitar and became another top 10 smash. Then came Baby Blue in 1972, produced by Todd Rundgren, reaching number 14 in the US. But their most enduring legacy came from a song that never charted for them. Without You, written by Pete Ham and Tom Evans, appeared on their 1970 album No Dice. Harry Nilsson transformed it into a worldwide #1 hit in 1972, and Mariah Carey did the same in 1994. The song has been covered nearly 200 times. Behind the success lurked tragedy. Financial mismanagement by their crooked manager Stan Polly destroyed them. When Apple Records collapsed in 1973, Badfinger faced a tangle of lawsuits that froze their royalties for years. The pressure and heartbreak pushed Pete Ham to take his own life. In 1975, at age 27. Tom Evans followed in 1983 at 36. Mike Gibbons passed from a brain aneurysm in 2005. Their story stands as one of rock's most heartbreaking what-ifs. Number 14. Wishbone Ash. England emerged a band that revolutionized guitar playing. Wishbone Ash pioneered the twin lead guitar format that would influence everyone from Thin Lizzy to Iron Maiden to Lynyrd Skynyrd. Founded in 1969, they brought together Andy Powell and Ted Turner on guitars, Martin Turner on bass and vocals, and Steve Upton on drums. Their 1970 debut album showed promise, and 1971's Pilgrimage pushed things further. But 1972's Argus became their masterpiece. The album peaked at number 3 in the UK and showcased everything special about the band. The interplay between Powell and Turner created textures and harmonies that felt completely fresh. Songs like Time Was, Blowin' Free, and The King Will Come blended progressive rock, folk, and hard rock into something magical. Traffic magazine voted Powell and Turner 2 of the 10 most important guitarists in rock history in 1989. Melody Maker declared them the most interesting 2 guitar teams since the days when Beck and Page graced the Yardbirds. Steve Harris of Iron Maiden said in 2011 that anyone wanting to understand Maiden's harmony guitars just needed to listen to Argus. The band achieved massive success in Europe, but never quite broke through in America, the way they deserved. They peaked commercially with Argus and 1973's Wishbone 4, but continued recording and touring for decades. With over 20 studio albums released through 2020, they proved their dedication to the craft long after the spotlight moved on. Number 13. Uriah Heep. Named after a character in Charles Dickens' David Copperfield, Uriah Heep formed in London in 1969, from the ashes of a band called Spice. Core members Mick Box on guitar and David Byron on vocals created a sound that mixed the heaviness of Deep Purple with progressive rock flourishes and gothic themes. Their first 3 albums built a cult following, but 1972's Demons and Wizards changed everything. The album reached number 23 in the US and number 20 in the UK, but topped the charts in Finland, where they became absolutely massive. With Gary Thane now on bass and Lee Kerslake on drums, they'd found their classic lineup. The album opened with The Wizard, a power ballad that started acoustic before building into a wall of sound. Traveler in Time showcased Mick Box's wah-wah guitar work over shifting rhythms. But Easy Livin' became their biggest American hit, reaching number 39 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song captured everything great about early 70s hard rock with its fuzz guitar, swirling organ, and Byron's soaring vocals. Roger Dean designed the album cover with his trademark fantasy artwork. The medieval and mythological themes running through songs like The King Will Come and Circle of Hands helped define the sword and sorcery side of 70s rock. Later that same year, they released The Magician's Birthday, cementing 1972 as their golden year. Despite their success, critics often dismissed them. Rolling Stone infamously trashed their debut, but eventually came around, with one reviewer declaring them one hell of a first-rate modern rock band. Randy Rhoads, who would later play with Ozzy Osbourne, reportedly loved Demons and Wizards and studied the guitar techniques. They influenced countless metal and prog bands and sold over 40 million albums worldwide. Yet they're still underappreciated outside their devoted fan base, even as they continued releasing albums through the 70s, including The Magician's Birthday and Sweet Freedom. That early peak remained their defining moment. Number 12. Montrose. When people talk about hard rock from the Bay Area, Montrose rarely gets mentioned. That's Criminal. Formed in 1973 by guitarist Ronnie Montrose, the band's self-titled debut album became a blueprint for American hard rock. The lineup included a young singer named Sammy Hagar, who would later front Van Halen, plus bassist Bill Church and drummer Denny Carmassi. Songs like Rock Candy, Bad Motor Scooter, and Space Station No. 5 hit like sledgehammers. Ronnie Montrose's guitar tone was massive, and his riffs were unforgettable. Hagar's raw vocals perfectly matched the aggressive sound. The album didn't chart high initially, but became hugely influential among musicians. Their second album, Paper Money, arrived in 1974 with Hagar still on vocals. After that, Hagar left to pursue a solo career that would eventually land him the Van Halen gig. Montrose continued with different singers, but never recaptured that initial magic. Ronnie Montrose remained a respected guitarist until his death in 2012, but the band's brief run with Hagar deserved far more mainstream recognition. Number 11. Nazareth. These Scottish hard rockers formed in 1968 and released over 20 albums, starting with their self-titled debut in 1971. Most people know them for 2 songs: their 1975 cover of Love Hurts, originally by the Everly Brothers, and Hair of the Dog from the same year. Both became rock radio staples and remain instantly recognizable. But Nazareth offered so much more. They could deliver crushing rockers and tender ballads with equal skill. Dan McCafferty's gravelly voice became one of rock's most distinctive instruments. Manny Charlton's guitar work ranged from delicate to devastating. Their musicianship was top tier across the board. Hair of the Dog contains one of the great opening riffs in rock history. The song became an anthem, yet the album it came from barely scratched the top 20 in the US. They achieved bigger success in Canada and the UK, where they were properly appreciated. Their ability to mix hard rock with melody influenced bands for decades, but they never got the widespread American fame their talent warranted. Number 10. UFO. This British band started in 1969 playing space rock before evolving into one of the heaviest acts of the decade. When German guitarist Michael Schenker left the Scorpions to join UFO in 1973, everything changed. His playing on albums like Phenomenon, 1974, and Lights Out, 1977, set new standards for heavy metal guitar. Doctor, please, don't you know? Phil Mogg's vocals gave UFO a unique personality among metal bands. Pete Way's bass lines were melodic, yet powerful. Songs like Dr. Doctor and Lights Out became underground classics. Their 1979 live album Strangers in the Night is considered one of the greatest live recordings ever made, capturing the band at their absolute peak. Despite critical praise and a devoted following, UFO never achieved mainstream success. Schenker's departure in 1978 dealt a major blow, though he'd returned periodically over the decades. The band influenced Iron Maiden, Metallica, and countless others in the new wave of British heavy metal. They were pioneers who paved the way for thrash and speed metal, yet remained relatively unknown outside the metal community. Doctor, please, don't you know? Number 9. The sensational Alex Harvey Band. Scottish rock has given us many treasures, and few were more unique than Alex Harvey and his band. Formed in 1972, they combined hard rock, glam, theatrics, and pure weirdness into something completely their own. Harvey himself was a force of nature on stage, part rock star and part deranged storyteller. Albums like Tomorrow Belongs to Me, 1975, and SAHB Stories, 1976, showcased their range. They could be brutal and heavy, then suddenly tender and introspective. Harvey's voice moved from a whisper to a roar within seconds. Their cover of Tom Jones's Delilah transformed a lounge standard into a menacing, theatrical masterpiece. They were massive in Australia and had strong followings in parts of Europe, but never broke through in America. Bon Scott of AC/DC and Nick Cave both cited them as major influences. The band's combination of music and theater predated what Alice Cooper and others would make famous. Alex Harvey's death in 1982 at age 46 ended any chance of a comeback, but their cult status remains strong among those who discovered them. Number 8. Head East. From Illinois came a band that mastered the art of arena rock before arenas really knew what to do with them. Formed in 1969, Head East spent the early 70s developing their sound through constant touring. Their 1975 debut Flat as a Pancake became a regional hit, particularly in the Midwest. Their 1978 self-titled album produced their biggest moment. The song Never Been Any Reason became a rock radio hit, reaching the top 70 on the Billboard Hot 100. The track featured that perfect combination of radio-friendly melody and enough edge to satisfy rock fans. John Schlitt's vocals and Roger Boyd's keyboard work gave them a sound that fit perfectly into late 70s FM rock. They never had another major hit, but continued recording and touring. The Midwest remained their stronghold, where they could still pack venues. They exemplified the hard-working road bands that built loyal regional followings, without ever achieving nationwide fame. For those who saw them live in their prime, Head East delivered every time. Number 7. Mahogany Rush. Canadian guitarist Frank Marino led Mahogany Rush and earned constant comparisons to Jimi Hendrix. Formed in Montreal in 1970, the power trio specialized in blues-based psychedelic rock with incredible guitar pyrotechnics. Marino's playing incorporated elements of heavy metal, jazz, and pure freak-out improvisation. Their 1974 album Child of the Novelty became their most popular release. Live performances were where Mahogany Rush truly shined, with Marino stretching songs into extended jams that left audiences stunned. He could play fast, he could play melodic, and he could make his guitar sound like it was from another dimension. The Hendrix comparisons both helped and hurt. While they brought attention, they also prevented Marino from being judged on his own considerable merits. He carved out a successful career, but never reached the level his talent deserved. For guitar enthusiasts, Mahogany Rush remained a treasured secret, a band you turned other musicians onto. Number 6. Blue Oyster Cult. Wait, you might be thinking. Blue Oyster Cult had hits. Everyone knows Don't Fear the Reaper from 1976 and that famous Saturday Night Live cowbell sketch. True enough. But the band offered so much more than one famous song that's now tied to a comedy bit. Formed on Long Island in 1967, they started as Soft White Underbelly before becoming Blue Oyster Cult in 1971. They pioneered elements of heavy metal and stoner rock with a literary, intellectual edge unusual for the genre. Songs referenced mythology, science fiction, and occult themes. Their lyrics came from rock critics like Richard Meltzer and Sandy Pearlman, giving them depth most metal bands lacked. Godzilla from 1977 and Burnin' For You from 1981 became rock radio staples. But deep cuts like Astronomy, Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll, and The Red and the Black showed their true range. They influenced Metallica, Iron Maiden, and countless others. Yet most people can't name more than one or two of their songs. The cowbell sketch overshadowed their legacy. They were actual pioneers who belonged in conversations about the greatest heavy rock bands of the era. Their combination of intelligence and heaviness created a template others would follow, even if Blue Oyster Cult never got proper credit. Number 5. Spirit. This California band started in 1967, but did some of their finest work in the early 70s. Led by guitarist Randy California and drummer Ed Cassidy, Spirit blended psychedelic rock, jazz, and progressive elements into something singular. Cassidy, California's stepfather, was decades older than his bandmates and brought jazz sensibilities to their sound. Their 1970 album 12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus is now recognized as a psychedelic masterpiece. Songs like Nature's Way showed their melodic sophistication. They could jam extensively on songs like Fresh Garbage or deliver concise pop gems. The mix of California's inventive guitar playing and the band's willingness to experiment made every album unpredictable. Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven controversy brought Spirit back into conversation decades later. Many heard strong similarities between Taurus from Spirit's 1968 debut and the Zeppelin Classics intro. Legal battles ensued years after Randy California's death in 1997. Regardless of that debate, Spirit crafted a remarkable catalog that influenced prog, psychedelia, and alternative rock. They deserved recognition while they were active. Number 4. Atomic Rooster. British keyboard-led prog rockers founded by former Crazy World of Arthur Brown members, Vincent Crane on keyboards and Carl Palmer on drums hit their stride in the early 70s. Palmer quickly left to co-found Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but Atomic Rooster kept going with various lineups centered around Crane's distinctive organ sound. Their 1970 album Death Walks Behind You peaked at number 12 in the UK. The single Devil's Answer from 1971 became a hit, showcasing their heavy, organ-driven sound. Crane's playing gave them a darker edge than many prog bands. His brooding, powerful keyboard work could shift from melodic to menacing in seconds. The band disbanded in 1975 as commercial returns diminished, reunited in 1980 for Headline News, featuring guest appearances by David Gilmour and Bernie Tormé, then broke up again. Crane's death in 1989 seemed to end things permanently. But amazingly, a new lineup with no original members released Circle the Sun in 2023. For prog and heavy rock fans who knew them, Atomic Rooster represented a path not fully explored. Number 3. Fanny. As the first all-female rock band to release an album on a major label, Fanny should be legendary. They formed in California in 1969 and released their debut on Reprise Records in 1970. June Millington on guitar, Gene Millington on bass, Nicky Barclay on keyboards, and Alice DeBurr on drums could flat-out play. Their 1972 album Fanny Hill, produced by Beatles engineer Geoff Emerick, showed them at their peak. They wrote their own material, played their instruments with skill, and rocked harder than most male bands of the era. David Bowie told Rolling Stone in 1999 that they were one of the finest rock bands of their time, writing everything and playing exceptionally well. Despite critical praise and competent musicianship, they never broke through commercially. Being women in rock during the early 70s meant fighting constant prejudice and skepticism. They toured extensively, opened for major acts, and put out solid albums. But the industry and audiences weren't ready to accept women as serious rock musicians. By the mid-70s, they'd broken up. Another case of talent overshadowed by timing and bias. Number 2. Humble Pie. Steve Marriott left the Small Faces in 1969 and formed Humble Pie with Peter Frampton, Greg Ridley, and Jerry Shirley. The band played blues-based hard rock with incredible energy. Their early albums leaned more toward acoustic folk rock, but once Frampton left in 1971, they got heavier. The 1971 live album performance Rockin' the Fillmore captured them at their rawest. Marriott's voice could go from soulful to savage. His guitar playing matched his vocals for intensity. Songs stretched into long improvisations that showcased genuine musicianship, not just showing off. They'd take blues standards and completely demolish them in the best way. "30 Days in the Hole," from their 1972 studio album Smokin', became their biggest hit. The song exemplified their dirty, bluesy, hard-charging approach. They influenced bands from Aerosmith to the Black Crowes, yet never achieved the fame of peers like Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple. Marriott's death in a house fire in 1991 ended any reunion hopes. For those who saw Humble Pie live in the early 70s, they were absolutely devastating. Number 1. The Raspberries. From Cleveland, Ohio came a band that proved power pop could rock as hard as anything. Formed in 1970, the Raspberries combined Beatles melodies with Who-style power and their own distinct personality. Eric Carmen wrote most of their material and sang lead, backed by Wally Bryson on guitar, Dave Smalley on guitar, Jim Bonfanti on drums, and Scott McCarl on keyboards and bass. Their 1972 hit Go All the Way reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song packed more hooks into 3 minutes than most bands managed in entire albums. It was pop perfection with enough crunch to satisfy rock fans. Follow-up singles like I Wanna Be With You and Let's Pretend showed they weren't one-hit wonders. The problem was, nobody knew where to place them. Too pop for rock fans, too rock for pop fans. Radio programmers struggled with them. Record companies couldn't market them properly. Critics loved them, musicians respected them, but mainstream success stayed just out of reach. They broke up in 1975 after 4 albums that showcased their evolution and consistently strong songwriting. Eric Carmen went on to solo success with soft rock hits like All by Myself and Hungry Eyes. But the Raspberries' brief run produced some of the decade's finest pop rock. Their recent appearances in Guardians of the Galaxy and the HBO series Vinyl brought them back to attention. But during their active years, they were criminally underappreciated. These 15 bands represent just a fraction of the incredible talent that filled the 1970s. They wrote great songs, played their instruments with skill, and gave everything to their music. Some had brief moments of success before fading. Others built devoted followings that sustained them for decades. A few ended in tragedy that cut short their potential. If you were there in the 70s, you remember these names. You remember hearing them on the radio, buying their albums, maybe even catching them live. They were part of the soundtrack to that decade, even if they didn't get to headline the biggest venues or dominate the charts. Rock history often focuses on the same handful of giants, and rightfully so. But the story is incomplete without acknowledging all the remarkable bands that filled out the scene. The ones that toured constantly, released great albums, and influenced musicians even if they never got rich or famous. So here's to Badfinger, Wishbone Ash, Uriah Heep, and all the rest. Here's to the bands that deserved more. The ones that gave us incredible music even when the world wasn't quite paying attention. They're still worth remembering, still worth listening to, still worth celebrating. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please like and subscribe. Share your memories of these bands in the comments. Tell us which songs bring you right back to the 1970s. And let us know which underrated bands we should cover next. Thanks for watching.